Hey guys, Stan Efferding here, founder of the Vertical Diet. We provide a simple, sensible, and sustainable solution to help you reach your health and fitness goals. First, get started with our easy-to-follow Vertical Diet ebook, which includes a quick start guide and sample menus to customize a diet plan that fits your goals. Second, use the My Vertical Tracker app to help you monitor and maintain your progress. And third, for our busy clients who are always on the go, let us do the cooking for you. Our Vertical Diet Meal Prep Company offers free shipping for your favorite meals delivered to your door in the US and Canada. So head on over to stanefferding.com and get started today. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Vertical Podcast. I've got a very special, I hope he's not just a guest. We're actually trying to get the legend, Flex Wheeler, to come join me for a weekly respite here. We're going to
consider it done.
Thank you. Yeah, we're going to try and interview some of these fantastic young bodybuilders. Flex, I'm going to let you do the introductions today. Who's our guest?
Well, today we have no other than the Patrick Moore. You guys have all heard of him. Came to the Olympia stage last year and just crushed it. Actually, Pat, I had never heard of you before watching on Olympia. So, I'm happy because when you walked out, I was like, damn, who in the hell? You know, and then your presentation and everything like that, it struck me from the guys of old like us and everything. And you know, and then going onto your page and finding your Instagram page and following you and just, kind of learn a little bit about you. And then later on, us sending each other messages and finding out that you're in the cars like I am. So, man, it's an honor to have you on.
Oh, man, it's great to be on, man. That's everyone's like, where'd you come from? You came out of nowhere. And I'm like, no, I was here. I just was getting last place. And,
I've been there.
Yeah, man, at national shows. And it was just one of those deals when I started the sport. I just didn't know what I was doing. I was one of those guys. I boxed, I played basketball, so I was always an athlete.
Okay.
And I never really got out of the gym. And I ran into a guy like most of us do, is like, hey, you should compete, whether it's a coach or someone and says, hey, man, you should think about. And I had no idea what the sport was. So when I did my first show, I think I dieted for like 2 weeks and I got second. And I was upset about that because that's just how competitive I was. But I didn't really have the knowledge. Like, I lost to a guy that was maybe 10, 15 years older, but he was knowledgeable. He knew the sport. And I kind of stepped away from it then because no one was there to tell me, hey, this is just how it goes. You just weren't ready. And when you're an athlete and you're used to doing well and it doesn't go your way, your first thought is, that's stupid.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that anymore. I don't. And a couple of years later, I found myself back wanting to do it again. And I actually had some people that were around me to tell me, hey, this is how you do it. This is how you diet. And we know you like to eat pizza every week, but you gotta chill on that. And, I actually didn't start doing cardio until my first attempt at nationals because I just didn't know.
Right.
And I got blown away. And I got backstage and I was like, man, these guys are crazy, and even she's my wife now, but my fiance at the time, she was like, those guys are big. And I said, yeah, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And so I got smoked, man. And you get humbled. And I didn't give up, though. I was like, yeah, whatever. Okay, I'm still learning. I'm new.
Right.
And I went and gave it a shot again. And I got like 18th place this time. It was still the same result. And at that show, that's when I ran into Lee Labrada. And, other people were telling me, hey, let us really show you how to do this because you could be something if you could get this thing right. And the next thing you know, man, I won the Texas State. And a guy that I beat there, he went on to turn pro at the National, Sean Vasquez. And so that gave me some, I was pretty excited. And I did the USAs the following year, and that's when I turned pro. And even then, I think it was an article in Flex magazine, and they said this a virtual unknown, because no one knew who I was.
Right.
And even then, I think kind of people were like, okay, he'll be good. But I didn't have a coach. I didn't work with anyone that was still experienced. And
so you won the USA with no coach or outside help.
Yeah, I had John Sherman. He just would give me some tips, and I had a nutritionist.
Sherman Tank,
but they weren't. Yeah, the nutritionist Keith Klein. So he did some diet for me, and he had me doing cardio 15 minutes 3 times a week.
Yeah, wow, that's it.
I like this guy.
Yeah. But it was that's how I came across Chris Aceto, because his knock on me was my conditioning wasn't lights out. I didn't hit the poses correctly. I keep in mind this was maybe my fourth show,
Right.
so I'm still new, I'm still learning. And then I got with him and Chris. You know, he's been like, "This is how you do it," and he's just been like there from day one. And he's like, "Man, you're gonna do some good things, and you know, we're just gonna let your body grow how it wants." And because I expressed to him, you were a big point that I brought up, Flex, and I was like, "See, these guys." You know, and at the time, me coming to the sport, Phil was the champion.
Right.
And so I saw him and I said, okay, man, if I can look like that, I think I can do this sport. And then I started seeing the guys in the 90s and I'm like, well, man, so this is what these guys, they all look crazy. And so then I did the research and I would see like the guys in the 90s, man, you guys are crazy. And so then that's when I made my mind up like, okay, you know, let's just take a different route and approach to this thing. We know we need to be bigger, but we still want to be aesthetic because, you know, when I saw you guys, I'm like, that's bodybuilding. That right there, the tight waist, just the broad shoulders, you know, just that's what I came to know was what it should be. And so then even being a couple years with Chris, we still had the same vision. And so, you know, that's how I train. Like you guys, I've watched you guys YouTube and I just study it like any athlete.
Right.
And those tips you gave me a couple while back, you know, man, let me tell you, I started my back workout with that. Oh, it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you, like, you never stop learning.
That's right.
And there's guys that if you let them tell you, you know, the way to do it and you actually listen and take it in, you can do some things with it. It's, you know, you guys are all tools for me to guide me,
Right.
you know, how to do this. And so I see what you guys did. And, you know, that's my aspiration to be what you guys were, you know, at the top.
Wow. Well, you know what, Chris Aceto, you definitely got a real one there. He's worked with some amazing champions and Olympia champions, and me and Chris go back to these before I was even an amateur. But I tell you, you know, young bro, you're on your way. You know, as I sent you that message a long time ago, I really, really feel if you stay on chart, you know, of the direction you're going now, you can definitely be a Mr. Olympia. I mean, you have all the cards and. You know, kudos to you for bringing up your posing because that's one thing I really watch. That's just was really, really strong in our era, and I've always looked at it as you know, like an artist. You know, it's you want to be an artist at your craft, and I love watching ballerinas and stuff like that. And that's one thing I wanted to be able to do is to be just ungodly muscular and conditioned, but just take away that stigma that you know we have no flexibility, we move around like gorillas and all that. So watching you pose, that's what really brought my attention to you. And then, of course, from there, being an athlete, I'm going to critique you and go hard and start looking at everything else. But man, you handled your business. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, when I trained with Flex back in 2008, he had us posing every night, 30 nights of the month for 20 to 30 minutes. And I remember one time, I've told these stories in years, but I remember what it was like when you talk about the workouts. We would literally be standing in a pool of sweat around our feet. And it was people don't understand that was just from like 20 minutes because you couldn't sit down or rest. You had to hold your composure, keep your waist in. Even when we were training, he wouldn't let us sit down between sets. It was pretty ridiculous the amount of discipline that we had to maintain. And constantly, even when we were training, walking around, going to a restaurant, he would smash us in our stomach if we let it go out. It's controlling the midsection.
Let me tell you, man, you know, guys, I think those type of little things like that are kind of lost now because I remember, and Lee told me this, when you're back there and you're on the line, and even when you're not in the call out, you don't know who's watching. Those cameras are constantly going. People are constantly observing. So little things like not relaxing your midsection, that makes a big difference. And even when you're walking around, like you said, when you're going out to eat, I always notice if I put a T-shirt on or something, I was blessed with a smaller waist, so of course it's going to be a little different. But, you know, I always pay attention to that when you have a shirt on, because if you're a muscular guy, your shirt's going to hang in a certain fashion. And once it gets down around the midsection, if you're just all relaxed right there, it's going to show. And so from those times and just going to the pool or the beach or whatever, you just subconsciously start to learn to keep your midsection tight.
Right.
And then you do that subconsciously when you train. And so guys will ask me, how do I manage trying to keep a small weights? And I'm like, well, I just keep my abdominals tight most of the time and keep pressure off of it with certain lifts, and I don't know if I'm sure that contributes some fashion to, with that. But those little things like that, those little tips, that's gold. And like Flex said, with the posing, Lee was always on me. He would tell me, you have to be like a big cat. You don't want to be a big robot just up there, hitting most muscular side to side. And, he said it's a show. And what he told me how it used to be in the 90s where guys really put on the show. They would come out in costumes or, different dress and stuff. And it was really something special, which is what gave a lot of flair to the evening show,
Right.
And so he was on me about that. And he was like, well, if you want to have this type of physique, it's nothing if you don't know how to present it.
Right.
So we took a lot of time on that routine, and Lee was super excited about it. It was a tough routine, and I actually messed up a couple of times.
But nobody knows that. As long as you don't show it in your face, they don't know, man. They don't know.
Yeah.
Man, Flex, that's exactly what Lee said. But in my head, all I could think was, us in Lee's garage, and he's like, wait, well, hold on. And I did it, and I was like, oh, man, I messed up right there. But he always just said, just keep going. Just keep going. They won't notice. Just keep going. So now that I see the routine, I'm like, man, I should have done this. I should have done that. But it was a lot of nerves, man. That's a big stage for my first time. And, but it was amazing.
Yeah, it's growth. And you're always going to be your hardest critic. Hopefully you have some really, really great people in your camp. I always did. And even now I had, Stan in my camp, and he's just a constant, bug in my ear to remind me of things. But you're always going to be your hardest critic. But, going back to as far as what Lee Labrada, I had the honor of standing on stage with him, my second pro show ever. And I remember vividly the 1993 Honor Classic. 1993, that sounds so old now. Jeez, man. But it is old. But I was so tired, and I hadn't yet mastered posing yet. And I was so exhausted in the lineup. I was hiding behind Robbie Robertson. So, I was right next to Robbie Robertson. I would kind of get behind him and then kneel down, hoping nobody sees me. And I'm looking down, I'm looking at Lee, and I'm like, how in the hell? Because he's just standing there like a damn statue. And I tap Robbie on a knee, and I'm like, dog, how does he do that? Robbie's hard, and, he's for real, he's real homie. And he goes, how does he do what, Flex? And I'm like, how does he just stand there like that? He goes, what do you mean? I go, look at him. He goes, damn it, ask him, we were kind of, So after the show, I walked up to Lee and, man, what an honor to meet you. And, he expressed his feelings about me. And I was just like, Lee, how do you do that? He goes, how do you do what? How do you just stand there on stage? I mean, you pose and it's like effortlessly and you don't breathe hard. And then in a relaxed pose, you just standing there, you never move. And he just looked at me so simply. He's like, you practice, Flex. And I go, and I kind of looked at him puzzled. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, how you go in the gym and you practice working out? I go, yeah. He goes, you train, right? I go, yeah. He goes, every day, right? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, yeah, you do the same with posing. You practice. And man, I really, really took that to heart. And me and Rico and Chris getting ready for a show, 5 weeks out from a show, we would go in there and we would spend at least an hour just on practice. And obviously when you're about 5 weeks out, you can't hold your mixed session well. You couldn't breathe. And I don't know why posing was always so hard for me, but I could barely hold a pose for like 3 seconds and I'd be out of breath. And we would do that repetitively. And as I got better, like say like the third weekend, I would just put on a CD, whether it was Luther Vandross or Mariah Carey or Mint Condition. And I would just pose throughout that entire CD nonstop, just getting used to transitions and so on. So like you said on stage, when you mess up or maybe you didn't do something on that beat, I was so used to improvising, I just continued flowing with transitions. But, I really, really took that to heart. And I think that's one of the things that are missing from today's competitive bodybuilding is just bringing that artistic flair to the stage at nighttime, because our sport isn't like MMA or football or something like that. It's not really that exciting visually unless you have somebody who is involved in that sport or family members or whatever. But you're not going to be just getting somebody walking off the street going into a bodybuilding show. We're just not like that. But if they were to bring that type of atmosphere, that type of showcase into it, then you can attract. And I'm sure you've gotten messages from people who are not really deep into bodybuilding, but they express to you how appreciative it was watching and so on. So, you know, you hit it dead on the nail. But again, I just want to remind you, as long as you understand transitions, you never mess up. And I never really believed in making a routine anymore, because say I hit a pose and the crowd responds to it tremendously. I don't want to get out of that pose real quick. I want to hold on to that pose a little bit and ride that beat, right? So as long as you understand transitions and whatever is your hard hitting poses, man, you can just go from here to there, left to right, whatever, and just work the crowd to its best. So yeah.
Hey, brother, I gotta jump into the questions everybody wants to know is, what are you eating? How you training? So let's talk about your diet right now going into the show. What's it look like? What's a day eating look like for you?
So it's, you know, I put a lot of emphasis that we had low carbs for the Olympia. Surprisingly, this time around, at this time, this far out, or this close, I guess I should say, the food isn't as low as it was then. And that's only being because when we kind of got wind that the Arnold was a possibility, we just thought it was best to just not completely relax the diet and to kind of stay within realms. And I've never been, for all the shows I've done, I've never been outside of 15 pounds of contest weight. And trust me, I've tried the bulking, the eating, you know, all the calories. My body just does not want to do it. And it just burns. You know, it either uses it or it burns it. And so this close in, well, once Olympia was over, we went back to the normal 6 meals a day, 2 of those being a shake, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening, and oatmeal for breakfast. So the oatmeal and shake for breakfast. And then we did the chicken and rice throughout the day and the steak and rice. So that was, you know, before the prep started for the Arnold. So we kept that diet a good while. And now it's pretty funny because the weight hasn't changed, but I want to say maybe 4 pounds. And so we're bigger than we were at the Olympia. At this current time, we're only a couple pounds over the Olympia stage weight, which is funny because we actually grew. And Chris was surprised. I was surprised. We grew on just 4 meals a day. So
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy, man. So I'll have 1 cup of oats and 50 grams of whey for breakfast. Meal 2 is 10 ounces of chicken and 1 cup of rice. Meal 3 is 8 ounces of chicken, 1 cup of rice. Meal 4 and 5 is just tilapia and veggies. And meal 6 is a 50-gram whey protein shake.
Nice.
And that's all we're doing. He actually took it low for a couple of days because he wanted to see a jump in condition. And it changed overnight because, you know, we do the hour cardio at nighttime. And it's funny because guys are like, man, even in your shape, you have to do an hour cardio. I'm like, yeah, you know, this is when you want to be, you have to beat what you did last time.
Right.
So even though we started ahead, we still have to do the same work, you know, to get a better result. And it's funny because a lot of people, you know, they don't know that it's the whole package. Like, just because you want to grow, that doesn't mean you're still not responsible for watching what you eat. You can't just eat like crazy. And maybe some of the other guys did, but for me, Chris kept a pretty tight rope on what we did in transition from this show to I guess maybe a 3-week off season.
That's a very familiar diet.
To the diet.
It's a very familiar diet.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting that fewer people will get further out of shape. The whole dirty bulking kind of thing we used to do. I remember I've been competing since '86. So I've seen every fad you can possibly imagine. I've gotten fat more than a few times, particularly when I was powerlifting. But it seems like the further out of shape you get, the more muscle you lose dieting for the next show. It's just too traumatic on the body.
Man, Stan, if people could hear you say that, man, I don't understand. And I actually put this on Instagram. The huge jump in weight when guys are, I weigh 305 now, I weigh 280. But then when it's competition time, it's like, man, you weigh 240. You know, so 60 pounds, 50 pounds, you weren't carrying that much body fat and water, were you? You know, so I tell the guys, hey, why don't you try a different approach? And people have asked me, why don't I blow up in the off season? I'm like, well, because that's not showing me my true muscle gain. If I'm at a leaner weight, I can tell by the way my physique looks if I'm actually making gains versus the scale. Because, you know, and whenever this prep is over, I'll match the scale weight as what it was for the Olympia. But I'm 100% sure I'm going to be lighter than I was at the Olympia, but bigger. And it's crazy because guys, they think that scale means everything. And it does not equate to muscular gain versus fat gain. And I think when these guys gain all that mass and then they have to get it off, how do you know what's muscle and what's fat other than what you can visually see?
Right.
You know, and so I really think that, like you said, man, more and more people are trying to get away from the dirty bulking because that's not legit weight. You're going to have to get, it's not legit muscle. I mean,
Flex used
the
to
scale might go up.
Flex used to always tell me, "You don't own it."
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean I don't own it? Look at the scale.
Yeah.
He's like, "Nah, you don't own that."
And you know what? You just
I think-
answered another one of my questions because I was going to ask you, what governs your mindset going into a show? Is it the scale or is it the mirror? And I know in our era, it was more or less the mirror because there was no different weight categories. So you'd have a guy coming in at 198 competing against a guy at 280, and the best man was going to win. So you've already answered my question as far as, so you let the mirror master what you're going to look like instead of being worried about the scale. Yeah, great.
Yep. And you know, it's crazy because I get that from you guys because I heard you guys all, you know, when you would say your weight and I would go look at the footage and I'm like, there's no way Flex weighed 212 right here. There's no way he weighed 208 right here. And it was crazy because then you guys would stand next to guys that weighed 240 and you weren't small, you know? So for me, Chris asked my weight, but he only asked because he wants to see what my body is physically doing. Yeah. But man, I've learned, like I said, and from looking at you guys, being at weights that aren't 260 and 270 and matching up with guys and beating guys that weigh that much, I don't let that mess with my head. And I think that does affect some other athletes though, because once they see that weight start to decline, I think in their brain, they're like, I'm getting smaller. And, you know, I think that's just a bad route to go, to trust that scale, because if I go and have a pizza tonight, of course, my weight's going to jump up 4 pounds, 5 pounds because of water retention from the sodium and all these different things. And, you know, I think it's very misleading. And so I even tell my clients, stay away from that scale. Use the tape. If you want proof, you know, tape some inches or something. But like you said, man, the mirror, look at yourself. You know, you can, if you're, you can tell.
Bodybuilders in particular, as you diet for shows, there's certain little tiny indicators, the length of a particular vein in your ab, or how deep the line is in your intercostal. You're looking for one marker, you know, and how long it takes to get a glute striation.
You're right, Stan. For me, it's my fingers here. If I can put my fingernails in my abs in the center, and I know I'm on track. And that's always for me about 5 weeks out when I can do that. And I'm like, okay, we're good. And then another week, the glute striations start to follow and the hamstring separation. So like you said, there's those little markers. And that's how you tell.
Nobody never asks you how much you weigh when you're on stage. Nobody never asks. Nobody asks you what your size of your arms or whatever, what size your legs. They just bring it to you.
And unfortunately for me, nobody ever asked me how much I bench press on stage.
Look,
I'd have won a few shows if they'd asked, but nothing.
That's the number one question. How much do you bench? I'm like, I mean, it just depends how I feel. I mean, but you know, it's funny because guys, like you said, that's what no one takes it into account. And I remember Lee told me, he said, man, you know, when I used to go to contests, he said, I would never really worry about the guys that look big in clothes. He said, I would worry about the guys that look smaller in clothes because you knew when they came out of those clothes, they were going to be shredded. And it was funny because I go back and look at Olympia when I did it this past year, and they had the cameras in there for the athletes meeting. I looked small in those clothes. But then when I came out of the clothes, I was like, man, you did pretty good this time around.
Those are the ones to worry about. And I also remember that you know, I used to focus everything on how much I lifted. Flex wouldn't let me lift any heavy weight. He wouldn't let me do a single deadlift, not a single squat. We didn't even do a single flat bench press through the whole 3-month prep period for the pro show, the time I won my pro card. Everything was just about volume, feeling the muscles, you know, just everything like that. So it really didn't. The heavy weights didn't even matter.
What I think one of the first things I ever heard Flex say was, you know, we're good at telling our bodies what to do, but we're not all great at listening to our bodies, and that's how I train. Because people will ask, oh, you know, they were making this Ronnie Coleman comparison, And I'm like, guys, I'm never, I don't aspire to be that. That I can respect that
Yeah.
100% because he
Yeah.
was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's insane, you know. And Ronnie's just a different animal. And people wonder, well, why don't you, lift this much and you don't lift heavy enough and you're gonna burn out like this. And it's funny because then those people have to go back and eat their words when I improve every show, and they see that, because I'm lifting this weight, but I'm like, guys, you don't understand that I'm communicating with my muscles when I lift these weights. So they're a tool.
Right.
I'm trying to create a work of art. I'm not trying to be a bull in the china shop where I just throw some weight and hope for
Very
the best
nice
result.
analogy. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, because when you shred down, like I said, you see, like Flex was telling me, Flex had crazy detail in his back. And I'm not going to share the secret he told me because it's my information. And I'm not going to share that with anybody. But he told me something that I immediately felt when I tried it, what he meant. And I was like, I would have never thought about it had he not told me, hey, when you do this, this is how I did this. And you should try this. And I did. And I'm like, man. And so now doing that, I can see how he developed his back with those couple of things, and it's just crazy, man, that a lot of people don't really train in that fashion. Like you said, Stan, it's the heavier the better. No one's really thinking, well, am I targeting this muscle group correctly? Because when you're on stage, you can't lift. It's about how well did you sculpt that body? Like how separated and defined are you? And it's going to be determined by the way that you train.
Yeah. So tell me about the split then. Monday through Sunday. What body parts, what days, AM, PM? What's it look like right now?
So for me, it's all AM training, afternoon training. Chris really wants me to train after meal 2. Sometimes it doesn't happen. More oftentimes than none, I train on after meal 1, which is 1 cup of oats. So funny story with me when I started this sport, or actually not started the sport. I picked up my first weight with the intention to get bigger, just because I wanted bigger arms at 18, 17 years old.
You achieved that.
And I trained arms every day for 6 years. And it's funny because no one there was to tell me that, hey, that feeling, that soreness, that means the muscle trying to repair itself. You need to stop. But I didn't stop because I didn't know any better. I didn't talk to anyone. I'm not going to approach the bigger guys in the gym because I don't want to get laughed at, So I would just do arms every day. And one guy told me, he said, man, you should try training some other groups sometime. But I trained fasted for years, literally years. And so when I started bodybuilding and I would hear guys complain about training on lower food, it's funny because it just doesn't affect me, man. I was actually talking to Phil's wife, Cherie, and she was asking, because I'm going up there to train with him for 5 days, just like a little mini camp.
Sure.
And she was asking, when do I train? I said, after meal 1 or after meal 5, it really doesn't matter. So I train in the morning or the evening, just based on the schedule. But my body doesn't feel any different either way. So that's the one benefit I have because I'm used to training in that aspect. So when Chris drops the food, it's like, okay, whatever, I'm used to it. And, but so I'm doing this. I have always trained every single day. I know, which is bad, man. What people say it's bad.
If it works, it works. Nah, don't listen to people, man. What works for you, works for you.
I've been doing it every day for the past 17, 18 years, and I don't think I know any better. And so I used to run like a single group per day, and I still do the same. And they were all on assigned days. As my body started to change and I noticed that wasn't enough, instead of like upping the training in weight wise, I wanted to up the frequency. So then I started training on this 4-day split. So the way this 4-day split works, my leg days are always on Sunday and Wednesday. So that will never change, right? Those days stay where they are. And so on that Monday, let's just say I do chest, and then back on Tuesday, legs on Wednesday, and shoulders on Thursday. Well, now the split starts over again because it's 4 days later and it's time to train chest again. And so then on the next day, it's back again because back was right after chest, and then it's leg day again. Yep. And then it's shoulders. And so it's just a continuing, rolling 4-day split. And what it does is it allows me to train each muscle group twice within any 7-day period because frequency works for my body. And that's enough time for me to recover, honestly, with the way that I'm training. So I haven't assigned like a particular other than legs because I know I need that rest time. But everything else, man, it's just instinct. And I come in and sometime I'll train chest and I'll throw in some lateral raises, or I'll train arms and I'll throw in some presses for chest, just instinct training. I just listen to my body, and it seems to work, man. I just because we all have those days where it's like, oh man, it's arm day. I don't really want to train arms, so I just come in the gym with the mentality like, hey, this is what we need to train today. We need to get better here, but if you're not feeling it, fix it up a little, get yourself going, and this way you can connect with your body. Because every gym session, it's not worth it if you're not connected with your body. So I just try to switch it up a little bit.
So on average, how many different exercises, how many sets of each, so we get an idea of how many total sets you do in a given workout, and how long is the workout?
So every workout for me is always 30 sets. So I'll always do 30 sets, and that allows me to pick, roughly 5 or 6 exercises, just depending on what the workout is that day. And the sets will always go from 5 to 6 sets. So I've noticed for my body on 5 to 6 sets, that gives me room for 1 to 2 warm-up sets. And then I'll have 3 or 4 working sets, like ones I actually have to try to push my body on. And the rep range for me is always 20 reps is what I shoot for. Of course, once you get to the heavier weight, because guys don't realize, one thing, it's funny, man. I'm telling you, I have this buddy of mine. He loves to lift heavy, right? And so one day he was running behind on time. And I said, man, you could just come train legs with me. He didn't, because he didn't have a gym he could go to, and he was in town. And he was used to doing like the 4 and 5. Let me tell you, 20 reps, that took him to a place he did not want to go.
Yeah.
And he was sick. He literally, he was sick, man. And I was like, yeah, you see, this is much different. And I tried to tell him that the body always does not know how much weight you're lifting, but what it does know is failure. It knows when it can't do anymore. And so most guys it's funny, man. I'll post a video, 20 reps is too much. That's muscle breakdown. You're not going to gain like that. And I'm like, well, I mean, something's working. So the 20 reps I live by that, because with being a former athlete, my endurance is a little bit higher than normal. So I'm just not a fan of the 2 and 3 reps. It's just not. And for a bodybuilder, man, I think that's not enough for us to really sculpt and train a muscle for what we're trying to do. Now, guys that lift crazy heavy, I respect it, man. That's not in my gene pool, and so I just kind of stick with that, with the higher rep training. But the difference with me, I think why I'm gaining is because I still increase the weight. So for instance, if I'm squatting and I get up to 365, like I posted an Instagram video the other day, once I finish 10, I just take a short 30, 40-second break and I come back for the other 10. That set isn't complete until I do that 20 reps, so this way I make myself accountable to train as hard as I can every time that I'm in the gym.
So the 30 sets would take care of both quads and hamstrings on leg day.
So on legs, since I'm playing catch up on that, and these guys have a head start, so I have my primary quad day and primary hamstring day. What I would do is on the end of each day, I attach one or the other. So on quad day, I'll do the 4 main big compound movements that I need to get done that day, and I'll attach 2 hamstring movements. And then on hamstring day, the same thing, 4 primary hamstring and glutes, and then I'll attach leg extension and leg press, or some quad movement. So this way I still get that frequency in there, but like I said, I have to try to find every little inch I can to try to catch up with the rest of these guys.
Yeah, and then on push day, you're doing chest, shoulders, and tris. You're doing 30 total sets for all 3.
Oh, no.
You
so
have
on those days, yeah, when it's chest, it's all chest.
All chest.
There's no all chest. And that's why I was saying I might throw in some side laterals, but that's why I posted up that today I had a side chest, and I was joking around and saying, Arnold would say, damn. And, guys were like, man, that shelf. So what I do on chest day, because I noticed when I would look at Flex and Arnold, all the guys back then, they had this impressive upper chest, right? And I did flat press for years when I first started, because I thought that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And then I started seeing those guys do incline and shoulder work and stuff that will build this up. And so I was like, okay, so now that's really the only way I train chest, because when I hit certain shots, whether it's a most muscular with hand clasped or a side chest, the chest really pops out. So I'll do a press and a fly, and then 4 all heavy incline movements, because that's just the vision I have for my body when I see
Right.
from what I've seen.
Right.
You only can build off of what you've seen, and I've seen these guys, do it, and so then I mimic them, and I just pick and choose what I like from
Right.
them to develop my physique.
There you go.
I found it so interesting that you said you would train arms every day. I was just down in SoCal working with a big boy from Strength Cartel. And, he's real popular. I don't know if you heard of him. Real popular. Yeah. He told me back when he was in the pen, he said he used to train everything every day. He said we'd do push-ups every single day, chin-ups every single day. And he's just massive. When I was a teenager, I used to do chin-ups every single day. And I'm kind of known to have the back as the best body part. And it seems like when you're building a base that it's not unheard of to go in there and just grind a body part out with a lot more frequency and volume than what you might suspect to be optimal at a later stage.
100%. That's what I did once I transitioned from arms every day and moved to training chest and arms every day. This was still in the inexperienced stage.
Yeah.
So that's why when I started, guys were like, man, your chest is, you have a good chest. Well, I trained it every day. And I kind of equated that to the fact when I would see, whether it's male or female cyclists or track runners.
Who said that?
Stop it. Really?
Flex told me the same thing 10 years ago. You ever seen those cyclists, the sprinters? Oh, man.
Yeah, man. And you think to yourself, how is that possible?
Every
and then
day.
You start to think, well, damn, they train like that every day.
Yeah.
So if I want to build a muscle group, I need to try to get it to that level to where I can train it every day. And the proof's in the pudding, man. Well, if Flex, y'all said the same, that's crazy.
No,
yeah.
I didn't believe in 20s.
Yeah.
I had never done a 20 rep set in my life. I'd been competing for 20 years. Me, it was always sets of 5 on the squat. And when I came to work with Flex, he threw me on 20s right away. I remember I used to do it was like 16, 18 plates on the side on the leg press and have 2 people sitting on top of it. And I was always proud of that. But I had my feet high and outside. I was loading my glutes and I was pushing on my knees. And Flex brought me in and he started doing the 20 rep sets with 90-second rest periods that he made me squat down. And by the end of that workout, by the 3rd set, I had 6 plates on a side. It was embarrassing.
Jeez. Yeah. But what's crazy about that, Sam, what I think a lot of guys and a lot of athletes can't say, in my whole 18 years of lifting, man, I have not had an ache or pain or not one injury. Yeah. Because what guys I think fail to realize, our muscles will feel great. They're because that's what they do. They're designed to perform. What some guys I don't think pay attention to when they're doing these heavy lifts are the internal parts. As muscles start to grow, they're gonna constrict on those ligaments and tendons, and the more they start to pull, I notice guys who lift heavy like that, they slowly start to suffer one little injury here.
Who are you talking to now?
One there.
Who are you talking to now? I had plenty of those.
You're so dead on point, and it's really interesting and great to hear that you studied your craft. One of my biggest fears, and it's also great to hear that you bought into the system with Chris. When I started training with Stan, I was so terrified because I already knew that he knew more than I did education-wise. He went to school for all this. And listening to him, because I interviewed him for a long time before he trained, I was like, man, I don't want to lose this client. You know what I mean? I don't want to lose this client. I go, but I have a different belief than he does. And I just said, okay, well, this is my belief and this is why. I sat down and I explained it to him. And to his tribute, he just bought into it. He goes, you're the expert, I'm not. So I'm just going to follow your lead. So that's great. But, your analogy on training a body part every day, I've always thought that because I always got challenged. I always thought about it because I know some of the biggest chests and biggest arms they belong to guys in prison. You hear about cat that put a Coke can in their chest and make it pop, and a Coke can would jump off, and cats in there with 24 and 25-inch guns, and they're not fat. And I was like, man, and then like you said, Olympic cyclists, Olympic speed skaters, man, some of the roundest, thickest quads and hamstrings hanging off of them, and I was like, so that completely goes against what we believed in bodybuilding, that you can't train a muscle group a certain amount of times, a certain amount of repetition. So I just kind of took that analogy and I said, if it works for them, then it has to work. That just explodes everybody's theory that you can only train a muscle group a certain amount of times, a certain rep or whatever. But it's like, me and Stan are kicking each other on the table because, man, I've thought that all the time. And it's just great that you're smart enough to be aware of that, because it's just so true. I mean, these guys have been doing this for years. You look at any cyclist, right? And I used to post pictures of their quads. You
Yeah,
can't compete with those round, used, thick quads. And it's just great, just from the things that you're saying and your insight, you're buying into the system. The other thing you said about as far as stress load of going super heavy, you can create that same stress load by just upping your reps, not upping your weight, but just
yeah,
upping your reps. And it's healthier for the body. Also, I always thought, you know, sitting into the strongest bodybuilder in history
yeah,
and training with him, one thing I always understood is I need to stay the F in my lane. Because if I F
one,
around and try to mess with his weight, I'm going to get hurt. So I got to swallow
yeah,
my pride, and I got to dive into myself and just let his intensity push me. But the other thing about it is you really have to learn how to focus in and home in on that muscle. It's like tutoring. You go to school, you can
yeah.
have 50 students in a class with one teacher, or it can be a one-on-one situation. So I mean, it's just really dumbfounding and enlightening to hear some of the things you say, because that now helps me understand your mind frame and the person that you are, and why you're probably going to achieve a lot greater goals than what people think you are, and probably why you have a lot longer longevity in the sport.
Yeah.
If you just don't get effed up in that BS with, so and so next to you is training heavier than you, or, this guy
Yeah.
looks better than you in the gym. I would always say, I don't care. I mean, I train with Chris Cormier, who's noted to do some crazy, crazy things in the gym. And I just always knew I need to leave him alone about that. I just need to go in there and
Yeah.
do my job. But at the end of the day, man, they don't ask you how much you squat on stage. You know what I mean? So nobody
No.
cares about that. So, wow, just super, super enlightening and fun to hear some of the things that are coming out your mouth.
Because man, Flex, people will ask, well, Patrick, why don't you have a training partner? I just I never have, because of that same reason, because you got guys like Stan that are super strong and they're gifted in strength and they're just gifted in different
Yeah.
areas. And so all of us as athletes, that's how we're no different. And so I feel like if I have a training partner, he's going to have some different strengths. Yeah, we may have the same goals, but his approach is going to be different, because he's going to like some different type of exercises or rep range or whatever. And if I'm there and he's my training partner, then I'm going to be pressured to want to do what he's doing, and vice versa. If I train in a certain fashion, he's going to be a little more pressured to do what I'm doing. What I found by training by myself, like you said, is when I come in the gym, even before I get here, I'm communicating with my body, like, hey,
Yeah.
what we have to do today.
Right.
This right here is the mother brain.
Right.
It controls everything, every little neuron. So it's like, if I have a day where I come in the gym and I'm a little bit off, I'll take my time starting my workout, because, that's how you get in there, and you could possibly get injured because you're not in communication with your body.
Right.
And if you are in communication with your body, like you said, man, I just started wearing a belt. I don't know, after however many years of training legs and back, and it's pretty cool. But I'm not a huge fan of it, because I feel like when you wear a lot of straps and wraps and knee wraps and all these different things, you're trying to protect stuff that shouldn't need to be protected if you're trying to target a muscle.
Right.
And I get the stability aspect of it. But the one time my buddy tried that, he heard a little pop in his knee, but he had a sleeve on.
Right.
So he didn't really know what was going on, and he kept working. Then he ended up taking it off, and I think a couple of days later, he ended up injuring something, because he could not feel the pressure on the internal parts, because he thought he was protected by the knee sleeve.
Right.
And lifting so much weight, his brain wasn't in contact with his body, saying, hey, man, this is too much. Right. And I feel like you said, when you buy into that system, like, okay, I'm training the muscle here. I'm not a power lifter. I am human. These parts in here, they break and they snap and they strain and they tear. So I probably, when I approach this thing, need to be in constant communication with my body as to what it likes and what it doesn't like. There are certain movements I refuse to do because my body just doesn't like it. And what that forces me to do then is I either go and watch you guys, because I'm like, okay, well, how does Flex do this? How does Stan do this? How did Ronnie do this? How does Phil do that? And then I kind of pick and choose, and I try it, and then I implement it.
Right.
And, I think a lot of guys, or maybe they're not humble enough, or maybe whatever the reason is, like you said, they don't want to study this craft. But these guys, you guys have done this before us, and it's like a dictionary. You know, you don't go in a dictionary and use every word. You develop your vocabulary based on that. I think I like that word.
Right.
I think I might like the way that sounds, and so you use it. And this is no different. I see what you guys did. I see how you developed your bodies. I try it. If I like it, great. If I don't, you know, but I'll never say, man, I'm going to squat 800 pounds like Ronnie to get big quads. I can't do that.
You know, Stan has always said your universal training belt is your core. You know, and I never really
100%.
understood that, but you know, later on in life, it's like, now it makes sense as you get older and you find out how important your core is to protecting injuries. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Again, he's a brain of it. So,
well, what was interesting is that Flex started us off doing mind-muscle connection exercises. If we were going to work quads, it was a single leg extension with a hold at the top and down under a controlled negative. You know, not a 8-second negative, but 2 or 3. You know.
Yeah.
And that would give us, we would do that before we got on our leg press and did our blast exercises so that we were feeling just our quads on the leg press. And he made me bring my feet in and down. So it was just quads. You just said something that I thought was really important. We're training a muscle. In powerlifting, we're recruiting all the muscles. And in bodybuilding, you're training a muscle. And when some other muscle helps out, you're no longer training a muscle. You know, you're training 2 or 3.
The impressive thing, Stan, is your raw lifts. And that's just proof as to some guys are just crazy ass strong. You know, and that just, like Flex said. Right. So you got to stay in your lane. And so for me, I like you said, with the leg extensions, some guys maybe don't pay attention. When you're on a positive movement, you can see the muscle flex. No one really pays attention that on a negative, you'll see those little fibers
trickling.
Switch. And I'm like, all right. So I tell my clients, hey, that means that muscle's working even in the negative. So use that. Don't throw 5 plates on a plate loaded leg extension and just throw it around and then you're done. No, how about you try to actually engage that quad and then just control the motion, like all the way through. And so I did that yesterday with some squats. It was only 365. But let me tell you, when I got to like rep number 9, you feel it. And so I think you just got to keep that in mind, man, when you're bodybuilding versus your powerlifting. Like Flex said, you got to stay in your lane when you're doing this, you know, this sport.
You know, what's funny is that everybody who knows me remembers the videos of my 200-pound dumbbells that I tossed around on the incline press. Well, what they didn't see is the heaviest I ever went in the 3 months that I trained with Flex getting ready for my pro card. And the best my chest ever was, by far, deep and full and striated. We never went over a 90-pound incline dumbbell press. Not once.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It is. I got destroyed one time up in Denver with Phil doing shoulder press with 30-pound dumbbells. He made me do this type of press that was deep. And I mean, it just killed my shoulders. And I was like, this is insane. I'm used to pressing 100-pound dumbbells. And it was just crazy that, you know, that was the first time I think I was really seeing someone who was more advanced than me. That just confirmed, like, hey, what you're doing is working. Because look at this guy. He's 7-time Mr. Olympia. You know, look at Flex. He trains high rep like you do. I look at all that and I'm like, it works. So that keeps me, like you said, Flex, to not worry about the BS on the nonsense on the side. I'm like, no, I kind of got this. I'm learning more and more. And when I see the guys that look like I want to look and they've done it, it's just confirmation I'm doing the right thing. So I just don't even pay attention.
It's a great thing Phil paved the way, because years ago he used to get teased a lot for all his hammer strength high rep stuff, because Ronnie was the previous Mr. Olympia and he was doing 800-pound deadlifts and squats. Everybody thought that's what you needed to do. So Phil's now paved the way, both for the quality of his physique and conditioning as a result of doing those exercises, but also his longevity. He's as healthy as can be. And, you know, I guess when people look at Johnny Jackson, who lifted a ton of weight, was a power lifter, and you know, with Branch and all that, look how his endurance, look how long he's been competing. He's in the Arnold coming up he's got to be damn near 50 now, doesn't he? But he, over the last 6 years, he changed his training quite a bit to earn that longevity. You know, at some point we all have to, but it's really important that now, you know, that's the example that's being set.
But people, you do, man. And it's crazy. You know, we get these cars, we buy these vehicles that have all these electronic touch screen dash and just everything you can dream of. You get in the car, it'll drive itself. But yet and still in the fitness community, like you said, we have these amazing machines that are in the gym. They're usually developed by engineers that are studying the human body, range of motion, and all these different things, and yet you don't take advantage of it. So you're still running carburetor engines from way back in the day.
Instead of drive-by
We're not
wire.
exactly. So it's like you have all this different stuff, and so like you said, I think when Phil was doing that and putting that content out there, it just shows. And even in Flex's some of his content and footage and stuff, he uses machines as well. So when I hear guys say, "Oh, I don't use machines, I only do free weights," in my brain, I'm like, "Sucks for you. You'll be done in 5 or 10 years,"
Yeah.
because the body, that's wear and tear. The free weights are great, don't get me wrong, but at one time they're still prehistoric tools, and you just use them as such.
Yeah.
They aren't meant, use them in conjunction with the technology we have now.
Right.
If you want to last in the sport,
Yeah.
it's just smart.
Dexter is also known to want to be those guys that use a lot of machines and so on. And they do have their place. They help you with stability. So say if you don't have stability in other areas, it keeps you going in that proper range of motion. I remember when Hammer Strength came out and Flex equipment, I mean, it was just, you got on that machine, it's like, oh, you could just feel it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was the best thing that you could feel. So again, just very, very enlightening with this interview. I mean, I've studied you, and I see your posts, regardless whether I like or comment, I watch your posts, but the insight that you're sharing with us now completely helps me to understand the person behind it, man. And it is going to be very exciting watching your career. I mean, I'm a little irritated right now because you got your guns in a view, and all I can see is those big look like you're hanging like 22 and a half or something like that right now. Oh, you don't have to hide them. It's all good, bro. Put it back up. Because all you do now is you show them these big cannonball shoulders. So it is what it is. Yeah,
yeah, man. But I just I'm where you guys. I'm just following your footsteps. So at least you guys know. And I try to tell people,
follow Flex's footsteps. I never placed in a pro show, so never made the
Olympic
Olympian stage.
It's sad because a lot of times we're viewed successfully based on natural gifts that we have. Now you can take those gifts and hone them and be just incredible, but they're natural gifts. They don't really tell the worth of a true man or champion. If you won Olympia, you're viewed upon as one of the greats. If you didn't, you didn't. If you're super smart naturally, you're viewed as a great person. If you're dyslexic, you're not. So, I understand what Stan is really saying, but it doesn't show the true value of a champion. I've always said, winning is easy, and everybody wants you. Contracts coming in, girls like you.
Yeah.
Depending on what you into, other people like you. But I've always said a true champion displays himself when he goes through adversities, whether it's with his family, whether it's on stage, whether it's losing or whatever. And kind of going back to what you said, you're very upset, very irritated that you didn't win. But the champion and the athlete inside you said, let me fall back and start learning why.
Yeah.
And I know in our era, it was very viewed on that a lot of guys would get mad and say you're taking money off their plate. I know even some of my, I won't say friends, but some of my buddies and homies wouldn't even talk to me. If I went in multiple shows, they'd be like mad at me. Like, man, I'm trying to make money like you are, It's always easier when everything is going, for you. So I've always understand, you don't really know a person or their character till all that falls off. Man, all that falls off, you're going to really see what that person's all about. I'll leave it at this. I won't say the girl's name, but everybody's going to know what I'm talking about. It, hopefully it's not viewed negative. But there was a champion who just demolished everybody in MMA, just demolished them. So gracious and humble, winning and everything. As soon as that person got lit, you heard it all come out, man. You heard it all come out. So I really feel that you never know a champion until he goes through his adversities, and his comeback after that really displays him a champion. Maybe he doesn't win. And I don't think a champion is defined in winning. Also, a champion is defined in the heart of that person. A lot of times people ask me, why did I take my medallions off when I took second, the second time behind Ronnie? And it's truly because I don't know if you've ever been at a show where a person is rewarded first and another person is rewarded second. And then within like 5 minutes, they come back. Oh, we made a mistake. You know, the second place is really
Oh,
first, and the first is so you see their whole demeanor just change immediately. So the person who
yeah,
won goes to being a failure, and the person who
yeah,
lost, who ends up winning, goes to being like a champion in their heart. And I just
yeah,
like, man, it just dawned on me. I'm like, you know, this medallion represents failure, represents number two. I'm not gonna wear this. I'm not number two. I'm
yeah,
number one in my heart. You know, you're not gonna make me feel
yeah.
like my self worth is based on your opinion about me. So, and I
Yeah.
think that's what a real champion is all about. You know,
You know, I always thought to myself, man, there's no difference between winning and losing except how the outside world views it. That's it. You
there
know,
you
when you
go.
give 100% to something, that's the victory in itself. You know, and like you said, Stan, man, you may not have, won pro shows and whatnot, but you contributed, to this sport. You contributed to Flex's career. I think a lot of people, like Flex said, base, being a champion off of actually achieving that ultimate goal. And sometimes the goal you achieve, it may not be what you expected. But for all the guys, even ahead of me, like I'm all these guys. I'm Flex's legacy. I'm Phil's.
Yeah.
Every one of those guys, whether they win or lost,
Mm,
if I achieve that goal, I'm a product of what they left behind
mm,
because I saw it and I envisioned the same vision that they have. And whether I accomplish that goal or not, God willing, I will. But when I'm done with this sport, people will look back and say, "Hey, man, you remember that guy Patrick Moore? Man, he may not, maybe he didn't get Mr. Olympia, but damn, he made a mark."
right.
Because people were saying, "Man, we need to go back to the '90s again. We need to, this, that, and the other." So I don't really base my success off victories, and I think what makes me a great opponent for a lot of these guys, those 16th place finishes, that taught me to not worry about it. So when people were like, "Man, you should have got fifth or sixth at Olympia, you should have got this," I'm like, guys, I'm not bothered. You do realize I just placed 13th at the New York Pro last year, and then 16th at a couple of national shows the year before that. So it's like that's nothing to me because all I know when I don't win, all that means is I was not the best that I could be. So where people were like, "Man, you should have done this, you should have done that." No, I have to be honest with myself. Okay, let's just say an asteroid hit and I won Olympia in 2019, but I'm not ready for that.
Mm,
It's just I'm not at that level yet. I'm not. I'm just not. Now,
right.
will I get to that level? That's a totally different story. But where guys get into this sport, I see a lot of them fall. I actually have a friend, I won't name him. Uh, when I placed 18th in Miami Nationals, he placed, last two. And it's crazy because he had a good physique. And I just will never forget him. When we left, I said, "Man, let's go eat shit. I just want to eat. I'm hungry. Whatever. I'll get him next year." He got off of that stage. "I'm done with this sport. I'm, it's this and it's that." Great physique, man. Great talent. Only to a couple years later see me turn pro and then win a pro show. And I saw him at the gym and he's like, "Man, it's crazy. I still remember, when you got last place." I say, "Yeah, man, it is what it is. It's last, I don't really care because when like you said, Flex, if I didn't feel like a loser, I accomplished my goal. I took the instruction I was given. I did the best I could with the knowledge I had, and that was that. The outcome was the outcome. And so I go back to the drawing board and I revisit the plan and see where I can improve it and change it again. And the benefit I have from that is now, ever since 2016, everything has been an improvement for me,
Right.
on placing.
Right.
So, like Chris told me, he always tells me, he said, "Who would have thought the 13th place guy at the New York Pro would get this much buzz after the Olympia?" And I was like, "Yeah, I didn't. I didn't have an expectation of to beat anybody. I just needed to beat the guy that
You were
everyone
right.
saw 4 months prior in
Right.
California."
Right.
And and I had something to prove to myself because guys, I'm sure people were like, "Oh well, he did a third tier show. That he's not going to be a real threat." I just did the show because I liked it. I mean, I liked the production. Muscle Contest put on a great event,
Yeah.
and that was that. And so I knew once I got the opportunity to where I could be in front of everyone, I was like, "Okay, we're going to make a statement." And so it was received well. I stuck to the game plan. And so now going forward, whatever I place at the Arnold, it's not going to make a difference because I'm still going for that championship. And I'm 5, 6 years in this sport. I feel like I have a good while left, and I'm just going to continue to study the guys before me. And it's going to make me better and better until they're not going to be able to hold me off.
Right. one of the greatest coaches in the world in basketball, Coach Wooden, had a cliche that he said, "One let's learn how to lose without being defeated," and that's the
Yes,
whole point of
exactly.
that.
Well, I don't think we could have said it any better than that. We're both going to be at the Arnold. We're looking forward to watching you compete this year. What would you say to the young cats that are coming up, that are trying to do what you did and follow in your footsteps? What are some of the most important things they can do?
I think the biggest thing I have to, say to the younger guys is it takes time. You'll see a lot of guys that are already at point Z. You don't know where they started. You don't know how long it took them to get there. And you just have to stay in your lane, like Flex said, because it's your race. I mean, your body is only going to develop based on how you treat it and the work you put in. So you can't really go on anyone else's timeline. And you guys have seen me lose multiple times, and I just come back. Well, you haven't, and hopefully you won't.
Yeah, there you go.
And but you just have to keep pushing, man. This is a sport. Just sport or just fitness in general is about perseverance. I mean, there's going to be times where you're maybe not motivated and wonder if you're actually changing. Well, just rest in the fact that if you're doing what you're supposed to do and you're putting in the work, your body more than likely is changing. And if this is something that you want to get into, bodybuilding especially, you need to do it for the love of the sport. It can't be, I'm going to get rich. I want this sponsorships, because that's not going to keep you in this sport. What keeps me is the fact that I just love lifting. And before bodybuilding was ever a thought, I would come in the gym at 1 o'clock in the morning. It didn't matter, empty stomach, full stomach. I just wanted to train. I just loved it. So develop a passion for it, whatever you're doing, and hopefully it'll take you to the top.
Those damn worms in the video, man.
I know.
Jeez.
We'll edit the arms out.
All right. So, first question. You're coming up to your very first Honor Classic ever, right? So, congratulations on being invited, because it's by invitation only. Now, I want you to be brutally honest. Forget all the BS and everything. As an athlete, as a warrior that you are, how do you feel that you'll fare at the Honor Classic based on your lineup if you bring your 100% best look ever?
At this particular lineup, which I think is a great lineup, with everything aside, all white noise aside, and I'm judging off of my particular physique, and I guess I would say off of me seeing the best that some of these guys have, I think it's highly likely for me to crack the top 6, maybe even top 5, because also based off the fact that, doing Olympia, I was a new guy, and I think the judges, if any of them are the same, they're probably going to be looking to see, hey, has he improved any? Because I did communicate with, Big Steve and ask him, hey, what do you think? And, he gave me some words of encouragement and said, hey, do this, do that, and then come back. And so I feel like I have accomplished some goals that were my instructions in between that time and now. And I have more stage experience. I've learned some more things about my body. And of course, when you hear, I don't really buy into the hype a lot, but when you start to see that people are receiving your physique well, it is motivating when you come in here and you train, because now you kind of starting getting confirmation from others, legends, the guy like you guys that are like, hey man, you're doing it right. Just, keep doing what you're doing, and eventually it'll pan out. So I expect to place well, because I'm bringing a better package than Olympia. And I made that statement way before the Olympia. Every time these guys see me on the stage, I'm going to be better. And that's one benefit I have about being a quote unquote smaller competitor. I have room to grow. So if these guys are maxing themselves out, every time you just better expect a better Patrick Moore. And, so I expect this show to actually be a tougher show than the Olympia, but this will be one where I think I can actually arrive and see how I really fare against some of these top guys. Because I know some of them are going to be looking, I think 7 or 8 of them are from the Olympia. So I know they're probably going to be looking to bring an improved package as well. And that's cool for me because I love the competition. I can't really better myself unless I know these guys are trying to push themselves. And I want to push myself regardless. But, you already know, Flex, you get that little edge when everyone's trying to go for what you want.
Iron sharpens iron.
And so I like that. When they said that Raleigh was out, I'm like, damn, I wanted him. Because he beat me at the Olympia.
Right.
And so these guys are mile markers for me. If I can pass, one person, 2 people here and there, and they're in my review, then I know, hey man, you're on the right track. Just keep going.
Well, I think that's a short sale on yourself. I think you're going to fare out a lot better than that. If I know Chris, and from the man that we're interviewing right now, um, and being very respectful to everybody else.
Hmm.
If you don't place higher than at least top five, I'm just being real with you. It's a disservice to yourself and your gift. All right. So I'm
Yeah.
just being real there. My second question is, everybody always argue, and I guess it's okay for talk. But, I'm going to hit you with the same question: the '90s versus your era now. So what do you plan on doing? Because we've texted each other before, and I understand that question. But what do you do? What are you trying to do to make your era the marker that they'll talk about years later? Man, 2020 or 2020 was, man, this, that, and the other, blah blah blah. What are you trying to do to transition, take that weight off the '90s, and make it be your own in your era?
So I think that there's a lot of great things to be taken away from each generation. I'm a higher product of the '90s myself and my mentality and the training, and I feel like, especially now with social media and so much attention, more attention being on the sport from a lot of fans and stuff like that, you have to take into account, where everyone. I think it was a big shocker at the Olympia with the way that my physique was, because when social media came around, people only saw what they saw. And at that time, I think Jay Cutler was the champion and Phil was the champion. So people who weren't really hardcore bodybuilding fans, I don't think they really knew a lot about the '90s. And then you have some of these other pages that bring up the '90s, the golden era, and you guys are getting the respect you deserve. People are starting to see that. And I think what's happened, sadly, is for the aesthetic physiques, because there's got to be more out there. I don't know every single athlete, but I know that they're out there. The mindset has been, well, you only do the open class if you're huge. You have to look like this because we can only set a standard by what we see. So for me, it was different because me and Chris, we knew, well, you're not as big as these other guys, and that's okay. But you're going to be different. You're going to do something different, and you're going to catch their eye, and then you're going to work with that. So we're in an era right now where everyone's physique is pretty similar, because it is, versus an area where it was more diverse. I always equate it to like the homes being built now versus the homes in the '80s and '90s. You go through a neighborhood in the '80s and '90s, all those houses are different designs, different dimensions. Everything's different. You go to a neighborhood now, it's all kind of cookie
Track
cutter a little
homes,
bit.
right?
And they're track homes. They just made to get them up. Builder comes in, contracts them out, they get out, and that's it.
Except his home. His
I
home is different. Yeah.
except yeah. So others have other advantages, but I think for me, my mark and what I need to do for this sport is that I think there's been a shift, and it started to come with the introduction of the classic physique, or classic bodybuilding, as some people call it. And I just want to be the guy that people can say, man, I remember 2019, 2020, things started to shift with that guy, Patrick, because he kind of stayed true to what he believed in from the jump and didn't really conform to what everyone else says, because that's all everyone's telling me now. Blow up like Ronnie, get bigger, 20 pounds, 20 pounds. Well, I'm going to let these guys know that I'm going to do it my way, and that's the only way that's going to be. And whether someone comes into this game and they want to be huge, more power to them. But you can be successful in this sport if you stay true to your beliefs. And so that's really what I want to represent, is that anything's possible.
Beautiful.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. It's been such an honor to talk to you. We're excited about what you got coming up in the future. Where can people reach out to you or follow you? What's your Instagram page? What's your YouTube? Anything like that, so people can tune in and make sure that they're watching you throughout this process.
So my Instagram is Patrick T. Moore, T in the middle. Some people will forget that. And then my YouTube channel, it's just Patrick Moore. And, usually it'll pop up because now it's more searched. So it's starting to come up as people are kind of starting to see the workouts. Soon I'll have a website up. It should be done, coming up shortly. But with so much things going on, I'm only one person.
Right.
And, thank God I have Labrada, behind me, Labrada Nutrition, and they take care of a lot of things and help me with a lot of stuff. But I'm still growing, and I'm getting adapted to all the attention, because I still have to stay grounded while still communicating with the fans. So it's a lot to take on, but I am very good about getting back to everyone on social media, especially that Instagram. I've actually been back and forth. You'll see it, Flex, today with people all day because I made a statement on
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
and oh man, and you can't say anything if you're a bodybuilder because then you're sensitive and you're. And I think what people misunderstood when I told them is like, hey guys, I have guys that I look to that are older and have done this
I
and
seen
are
that
coach
video.
and
Yeah,
judges.
yeah.
Yeah, they tell me where I need to improve. But guys get on there, hey, you need more rear delt. Hey, can you lean back more and till your elbows? I'm like, guys,
Insta experts.
come
Yeah.
insta
Insta
experts, man.
experts.
And so, I it's an ever evolving thing. But I appreciate all the fans, man, and I appreciate you guys having me on today, big time.
Well,
No
that's
problem.
awesome, man.
To this interview, man, it's been great. Is there anybody you want to thank or, mention a name for your support and helping you get here where you are today?
Man, I gotta thank, of course, Labrada Nutrition because Lee's been huge, huge in my life. A mentor, helping me out just in a ton of different ways. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely for sure. Chris Aceto for taking me in because Chris doesn't work with everybody,
Right.
and he's always riding me, man. Even when I express some concerns about something, he's like, just do it, and then he does it, and then he's right, and then it's awesome from there. Of course, the NPC IFBB because they give us athletes, a platform, a chance to compete and do what we love to do. Well, my wife obviously deals with me every day, all the craziness, so
Right.
she's standing right over there. But and anybody else, man, my buddy Gabe, he's the guy that got me started in bodybuilding, and of course Phil, he's my big brother, man. He's I'm looking forward to going get some content with him because, like you said, man, he's part of my team,
Mm.
and it's just great that I have people like you that mess, because you take in what you want from who you want.
Right.
And I'm just blessed to have a lot of positive people around me saying, hey, you're doing the right things. Keep doing this, stay on track, stay focused. And it just helps my career, man. So I'm just appreciative of everybody that's a part of this process of me becoming, who I'm destined to be.
Well, for me to end this, man, I'm a fan. I'm even more so a fan of the person. I love the content you put up on Instagram, pictures of you and your wife, beautiful lady. You guys look like an amazing couple. And when I learn about and hear about and read and meet people like yourselves, you make me feel that our sport has a future. It has its future
Yeah,
because I definitely think you're a huge light coming to the sport. So, man, it's been truly an honor to be on this podcast, this Instagram, and interview you. And man, I mean, like Stan said, we're gonna be be peeping you out, and we're gonna hold you accountable. We're gonna hold you accountable to your craft, man. So, thank you so
absolutely.
much for myself of being a part of this.
Thank you, man.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for
Thank
coming
you,
on.
man. I appreciate you guys, man. And anytime, like I said, I told you, Flex, I'm not gonna lay you down, man. I'm locked in. I see everything and I hear everything, but
So I see.
it's yeah. So it's tunnel vision, and I'm just gonna enjoy this process, man, and have fun because I saw you guys enjoy it. I saw just all the perks and just the everything that comes with this sport and chasing what you love. So I'm you guys' legacy, man, and so I think we'll see some great things come to fruition here over the next few years, and we're just gonna keep at it.
Looking forward to it. Me and Sam be looking forward to seeing you compete, meeting you and shaking your hand and your wife, and just T minus a couple of weeks from here. Actually, a few
Yes,
weeks from
sir.
here. So
Absolutely.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
bro. Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you
my
for your
man.
time.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.